What if you want to photograph your own cookbook, but you really don't know how? Today, we're talking to an author who figured it out. Welcome to Everything Cookbooks, the podcast for writers, readers, and cooks. This is Molly Stevens, and today I'm here with Kristin Donnelly. Hello, Kristin.
Hey, Molly.
Today's guest pitched us.
Yes.
With a pretty surprising angle.
Yeah. I mean, we've had authors before who have photographed their own cookbooks, but I don't know if we've had an author who wanted to photograph their own cookbook without really having necessarily the skills to do that yet.
Yeah. Our author today is Saeng Douangdara, and he is a content creator with millions of followers across his platforms. I think it's mostly video. But when he got approached by a publisher to write a book, he said, yes, I'm interested, but I want to shoot all the photos.
Yeah, pretty cool.
I mean, I love it. And I want to find out, one, why he decided to do that.
Yeah.
And then how he went about, because the publisher is 10 Speed Press, and they're not going to say, oh, sure, never having seen. I mean, he didn't have a portfolio. He didn't have.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because, I mean, cookbooks are always collaborative projects. And in his case, there were collaborative aspects. But a lot of content creators that we've spoken to or that you'll hear about, they often will hire people to do a lot of different facets of the cookbook, the writing, the photography, sometimes the recipe development. And in his case, he really did do all those big pieces on his own.
Yeah.
He probably didn't necessarily need to, but he really wanted to. So
yeah,
I'm definitely excited to hear the motivations and the how.
How we managed it all. It's impressive. Well, our guest is Saeng Douangdara, and he was born in a refugee camp in Thailand, raised in Wisconsin, eating the funky, fermented, deeply flavored food that his mom cooked and his dad fished in the rivers. It's quite a life story that he lays out in his book. And Saeng's in LA now, and as I mentioned, a content creator. He's also a personal chef, specializes in Lao cuisine. His book is The Lao Kitchen. And he's also had work in Delish, BuzzFeed, the New York Times, LA Times. And we're excited to talk about his debut book. Well, Saeng, welcome to Everything Cookbooks.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I've been a longtime listener and fan, so it's an honor to be here.
That's so cool. Well, Kristin and I are thrilled to talk to you, and we want to start before the book and ask what made you want to start chronicling Lao food online and what those early days were like.
I started as an academic counselor at UC Irvine and then UCLA. During this time in my career as a counselor, I was always doing cooking on the side or like cooking demos and always live in person, right? I think that was the moment where I knew that there was a spark in me that wanted to do something in the internet with Lao food because there was not much of Lao representation within like the internet space. And so that kind of charged me into like when I would leave from work at 5, I would go home and start just recording me making my Lao food because that's what I love to eat. So I was already making it. So I thought, why not intentionally, create it for the world to see? Because if, mainstream media wasn't going to do it for me, then I was going to do it myself. And so that was kind of the behind the scenes of like why I initially wanted to do Lao food on the internet.
And now you've got over 1 million followers, right?
Yeah, collectively. It's kind of crazy to think over the years. I think I was looking back in 2017 was actually my first like long form YouTube video of how to make kaupun nam kai. And it was funny to watch because like looking back almost 10 years, of the growth, essentially. Like it's cringe to watch yourself in like way back, but I think also cringe is so important because it shows how much you've grown. But yeah, over the years of 10 years, it slowly grew. So it definitely wasn't like a one night thing, but I've learned a lot along the years.
Yeah, we were kind of wondering if there was like anything that really went viral or has it just been that slower growth and audience development?
Well, on YouTube is very slow. I was there for years and not much was happening, but I was just like talking to myself essentially. And I think what really happened is I think for a lot of creators, my peers that I know now, is that during the pandemic, I shifted to being a personal chef after being a counselor. And so I had all these clients before the pandemic. And then once the pandemic hit, I could no longer go to my clients' houses and cook. And so that essentially gave me all the time to make internet videos. And then what really hit it off was actually on TikTok when I decided to join. And I made a 1-minute Lao sticky rice video. And that popped off the next day. It got to like 18 million views, and that kind of gave me wings and confidence to fly in all the other platforms.
That's awesome.
So you still were at your counseling job when you started to make the content. Were you doing the side catering, private chefing at the same time?
Yeah, I was. I was a academic counselor for, I would say, 5 years total. And during those times, there would be people contact me for Lao food catering because there's not merely much Lao food within the Los Angeles area. And so I was the one person that my community knew about, like, oh, he's a counselor, but he also loves to cook on the side. And so I remember one of the days was like just cooking for fundraisers or intimate meals and things like that. And so that kind of transformed into what I do now.
And your audience, is it largely, I imagine with it being that big, it's a pretty big mix of people who are very familiar with the cuisine and then really new to it.
Yeah, no, the audience it ranges quite a bit. Most of them are in the United States. And of course, there's a good chunk that are from the Lao diaspora. But I've seen so many people that are not Lao that are like Lao adjacent, right? They have neighbors that are Lao, or they just love Lao food or Southeast Asian cuisine. And they're just so curious. And so I think the beautiful thing about social media is that I've gotten to meet so many people that have shared with me their Lao food experience, because across the nation, there's a handful of Lao-centered restaurants that you can actually go to and experience what is Lao food. But those are in the bigger cities and sometimes in the Midwest as well. So it ranges within who my audience is.
We talk to a lot of people who start as content creators, but there's so much pressure to be crowd pleasing and to do things that are recognizable that people, you're going to catch a wider net that way.
Or sensational sometimes,
Yeah. And from the beginning, you've talked about, Lao food being genuinely underrepresented and just leaning into that with food that people may not recognize. Look at the community you've built while doing that. It's really impressive.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of the times, I talk to my peers and even other people, that want to do social media. And a big piece of advice is that to never dilute yourself. I think we always think the wider net we can be, the more relatable we are. But that's actually quite the opposite. It is the more specific and niche we are, the more people that can find our passions and understand and sense that authenticity. And so that casts the wider net, I can relate to this person because they are so passionate about their culture, and that makes me want to explore mine. And so I think that's what I've found along this journey. Of course, I've had that side talk of should I be making just Asian cuisine?
Sushi bakes.
Yeah, exactly. So, and there are those conversations, right? But I think there's a way to do those quote unquote trends, but still within who you are as a person or as a cook. And so I think that's how I found my way around this world of social media, because it's a crazy internet space. But I think there is room for your passion, but it's just the ability to not dilute yourself.
And you had a street food cart too. We saw you mention that in a taco recipe in the book. Where did that fit in?
Oh my God, those days are wild. So actually, I had a street food cart called Dumb and Dumb. So if you have ever been to LA, you'll probably see the dozens of taco stands. And so for me back then, I was like, why can't there be a Lao papaya stand? So me and my business partner back then, we decided to why not add a Lao papaya cart stand in downtown LA? And we were doing that almost every weekend to promote Lao food and share our passion of papaya salad with everyone. And I think one of the crazier moments is that we almost got arrested because we didn't have the right permits. But for me, I'm doing it out of joy and passion. But luckily, some hipsters from a museum took us into their area, and we did not get arrested.
That's funny. Your book, congratulations, The Lao Kitchen, is just out.
Thank you.
and published by 10 Speed Press, which is no small feat. Walk us through the moment when your editor, Zoe Brandt, reached out to you after seeing one of your posts, I believe.
Yeah, it was in 2022. During that time, I was already making all these Lao food videos on the internet. And so I'm always thinking about, I don't just make food, I tie in stories, my experiences, Lao culture into my videos. And so on that day, I've always wanted to write a cookbook. And so I was like, why not just put it out there? Like, I want to write a cookbook story. And so the title of the reel was actually, I'm writing a cookbook. I wasn't, but I want to.
Manifesting.
Yeah, exactly. The power. So I did that. And I think that was a time in August that I actually was applying for another social media job that I got rejected from. But then the next day was when Zoe emailed me from 10 Speed and saying like, hey, I watch your stuff. I think you have something, like, would you be interested in writing a cookbook? And I was like, absolutely. It's kind of like my dreams came true in that moment. I was like, oh, it's really real. If you say what you want to do, it will find you somehow.
And did you have to go through the whole process of like writing a proposal and all of that?
Back in 2019, I had already been starting to write a book proposal. What was in my head, a book proposal? I didn't know what it was, but it was, what I saw online and was creating. And so by the time Zoe reached out to me, I was like, I have this, but I don't know if this is what you're looking for. And it wasn't. So she was like, oh, this is a more formal way. Like, she gave me the help in terms of structure. Like, oh, like, adjust this as needed. I did that and then sent it back to her. And then the team was able to look at it and they saw like, okay, this is something they would want. But essentially then she was able to connect me to my now agent, Sally. So we kind of went backwards in a way. And then Sally helped me refine my proposal even more. And then we had the exclusive pitch to 10 Speed and they were able to grab it before anyone.
Nice. You shot your own photos and you had to get that in the contract and that was really important to you. So we're wondering, why did that matter so much to you and how did you go about doing that?
Before you answer, say, when you made the deal, you didn't really know how to take the photos? That's the part that's really interesting.
No, 100%. I didn't know how to take the photos and I didn't know how to write a cookbook.
But I'm signed up to do both.
For me, I'm like, I love challenges. I love learning. I'm that type of person. And so, yeah, essentially, in my head, I knew about the cookbook world because like I have cookbooks. I'm looking through them. I love the photos. And for me as a content creator and personal chef, I've always been in the world of digital media and being able to make high quality videos. And on the side as a hobby, I've always taken photos, but I've never shared them online because that's always been a hobby. And so I thought when this landed in my lap, initially I was like, I want a Lao photographer that specializes in food. And so I did. I actually put out a story on my social media. It's like, hey guys, I'm looking for a Lao food photographer because I want you to have that POV of understanding like Lao food from home cooks. And there wasn't any that it came through. And so at that moment, I was like, why not try to turn what I love as a hobby into my own thing? And so that became my journey of trying my best to figure out how to become a professional photographer within the cookbook world. And oh my God, it's so hard. So essentially, when I was already talking with Zoe and Sally, I was told them like, I think I want to do my own photography. I don't know what that really means in saying that to them at that moment, but I was like, okay, I think I can take photos and I know I can make food beautiful because that's my job already, to make food beautiful on the internet. And so essentially that became a journey of Sally connecting me with Kevin Miyazaki, who does a lot of incredible food photography. I was consulting with him and he essentially helped me refine everything I had learned along the way within the 1 or 2 year time frame before I actually had to start shooting the book, or whoever had to start shooting the book. And so within that year before, I was learning from Kevin. Then I was also taking online photography classes with Fig and Light. He is a photographer on YouTube, a real life photographer, and he provides intro and also in-depth photography classes for anyone that joins his Patreon. And so I did that for like a month or two and just consuming all his content and like practicing day and night. And for me as a creator, I already had have like the nice camera, the lights and all. So I had a lot of that. So it was more of like, how do I apply all the stuff I have into the book world? And so essentially with Fig and Light's help with his videos, and then Kevin's support and consultation, like he helped with a lot of like backdrops, specific styling, things like that. I created my portfolio to submit to Emma from 10 Speed, our creative director of the book. When I got the email that they liked it, I was like, oh my God, it's received. Like, I don't know what I just signed up for, but let's try it.
So what was that portfolio? How extensive was it?
It's probably not as extensive as like professional portfolios, but I go on Lao foodie trips. I bring 50 people to Laos with me every year in October, and I bring my camera with me as well. And so that's where I started building my portfolio of like lifestyle shoots of Laos and Lao food. And so I submitted some of that. And then I think the bigger work for me was doing the food photo shoots of some of the recipes that I had already pitched that's going to be in the book. So I actually looked back into what I had pitched. So like half of the photos are actually in the book right now, and half are not. And I've been able to see like, oh, it all makes sense in terms of the direction and guidance that Emma and all the Kevin has provided in being able to create these photos.
And when you say you consulted with Kevin, what did that look like?
Kevin was the last piece. He was near the end of the process. So I had already learned all the lighting and whatnot from Fig and Light. I had already taken some photos, so I would send it over to Kevin. And then we had like a Zoom meeting over like what he thought in terms of the styling, direction, what I could improve on. And I think one of the bigger things was lighting. So I think I started with hard light, and then we kind of switched over to soft light that Kevin helped me maneuver. And essentially, it was also like the logistics of what is a food styling shoot look like if I were to have someone, and how would I apply that to myself. I know that it's like within 2 weeks or a month time frame of a photo shoot, but for me it became a whole year long's worth of photos. And so I was like learning along the way.
So did you do all the styling, or did you have a stylist work with you?
I did all the styling.
Oh, wow.
So at the same time, I was learning about food styling as well, and all the tricks and whatnot. And I think one of the biggest help was other cookbook authors. Like I would look through the styling, the type of styling they had, and what I visually enjoyed, and then apply that to my work.
I guess my question is, looking back, I mean, would you do it again?
I am so happy that I did it, because I think it makes the book for me, like now that I hold it in my hands, it makes it feel so much more connected to me. I feel like it's literally, well, it is a baby of mine, right? Everyone's having a cookbook baby, but I think this one's even like more special to me, because looking through the photos, like I literally took all those photos and edited. It's a new skill that I've been able to grasp onto. And then for me, like knowing that I've always enjoyed photography as a hobby, like now I would love to do more professional photography in the future, whether it's mine or other people's. But I think my portfolio now is essentially the book.
Yeah. And now when someone posts looking for a Lao food photographer, there is one.
Yeah, there's someone.
Totally.
We got to grow that.
Yeah. Amazing.
We were reading with the props, a lot of them actually came from your trips to Laos. Is that right? Some of the like ceramics?
Yeah. So I started the Lao foodie trips in 2021. Every year I always collect ceramics and plates, sticky rice baskets, not necessarily the intention for the book, but I just enjoyed it. But when the book came in, I was like, oh, now I'm going to collect more. And so I think what made it extra special is also being able to have all those props and tools that really made it a time and place for this book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me, sometimes what feels overwhelming with photography is also just the production, like not the on-set production, but the post-production. Was that something that Kevin helped you with as well? Even just like editing, but also file management? I guess you're used to that with social media.
That definitely applied with all the hundreds of videos I have. So I just use that in terms of just turned it into the video work. But I think actually Emma was a big support. Like Emma was able to guide me throughout the process as well. So every month I told Emma, I was like, oh, I'm going to send you like 10 photos.
And she's the book designer.
The creative director, of the book. Yep. I just wanted to make sure like I'm on like the right path. Like this is okay. Like I'm not wasting my time. We have to find a photographer at the end. And luckily, she was able to give like minor edits or tweaks. Like, oh, why don't you do this? Why don't we have like changes a little bit. And then along the way, that kind of just became then me editing on the program that actually Kevin was able to share called Capture One. So I wasn't familiar with that program before this process, but now I love it. Like, it's so useful and have been able to learn the file management and all that. I think one of the big pieces of food photography, at least on my end, is if you're going to do it by yourself, know that one food photo is going to probably take you 2 days or a day to just get one photo. It was intense.
You mean to cook,
to cook, style, yes.
All that. You say it took about a year to take all the photos.
Yes.
And you're developing as a photographer during that.
Yes.
The book, for anyone who hasn't seen it, it's very photo rich. It is a very visual book. I think on one hand, there's less pressure because you're cooking and preparing and shooting, but also you're evolving as a photographer. And
yes.
So did you ever have to go back and reshoot something because it was amateurish or cringy or whatever?
Yes.
He's shaking his head.
Oh my God. Like, that was one of the most stressful things. So you would get so far, like, oh my God, I have 50 photos done. One of the years I finished half of the photos, but then that was a time where I had to literally move apartments to another apartment. So I had to bring all my hundreds of plates that I had bought and all the props over. And then that was where I was able to create a board of all the photos I had taken by then. Nice. And sometimes that is dangerous because you're like, oh, shoot, that doesn't make sense. I could probably say I retook half of the photos. They weren't up to what I had liked from the beginning. It shows you, the growth of being a photographer in the moment of doing all this.
Yeah, wow. It's so much work.
Yeah.
Kudos to you, really.
Thank you.
Doing that.
Yeah.
We should probably talk about writing this book.
Yes.
Right up front, you use the word funky. And when you talk about Lao food, you'll often talk about funky. Why does that word work best for you?
Funky is, how do I say, maybe a controversial or a word that people don't often use in a good way. But I think for me, I try to use it in a way to reclaim that word, because oftentimes I think if you think about Asian cuisine, but specifically looking at Lao cuisine, there's a lot of fermented goods, especially like badak, which is the unfiltered fish sauce. And I think that a common word associated is often funky. It's funky in a sense, the smell might throw you off for a bit, but actually if you get past the smell and actually try within the dishes, it is so good. It just perfumes the entire dish or soup or stew. And so my way of funky is thinking almost like funky dance at the same time, this very aromatic dish that loves to dance on the plate and play. And so I wanted to reclaim that word for Lao cuisine, because I think a lot of the times, especially with Lao cuisine not being known, I wanted to share that funky is okay. And I think using funky for Lao cuisine can also expand for other cuisines that, I understand what he's saying, but funky in a positive way that fermented foods can be.
Yeah. Right. Instead of skirting around it and pretending, oh, it's not that strong or whatever, just embracing it unapologetically. For someone who's intimidated, unfamiliar and not sure where to start, what is one thing you might encourage them to try first? One of your recipes or just a Lao dish? I
think for introduction to Lao cuisine, actually the book is structured in a way to give you that slow introduction. So the second chapter is the pantry and the jails, the dips. And so that's where you get really easy to make. Get a mortar and pestle and make the different dips, whether it's jiao som is a really popular dip. It's eaten with seafood or steak with sticky rice. And then you have learn how to make Lao sticky rice. So a lot of the times, rice is made in water boiling, but the difference with sticky rice is that it is steamed and it never touches water. And so I think once you can master just making the simple sticky rice, it seems simple, but if you look into the details, you want to make sure you take every step. You make perfect sticky rice, and then you make a jiao som. Get whatever your favorite protein in, and I think that is a great slow introduction. And if you feel confident in then you can continue on to this chapter, because we bring back the dips into other chapters, because that is applied in the other dishes as well.
Your background with food is teaching, and you're so motivated by bringing more awareness around Lao cuisine. It seems like you do this without, compromising. And I'm wondering if there ever, just throughout the book writing process, or even I guess in your career, has there been pressure to compromise your recipes at all?
I mean, I think, yeah, there's always that like tension of back and forth. Like I remember even in the beginning days of like everything you see now on my pages is like very what I have always wanted to share. But sometimes, like, actually, my one example is showing the jar of badak, the unfiltered fish sauce. So a recent video of like my mom sent me her badak, and I was like filling the kimchi jar with it. I think if you were to ask me that 5-6 years ago, I would have been a little bit hesitant because I would have been fearful of what people thought about showing this. But I think knowing my community and the people that watch myself, they understand where I come from, and that I'm very much unapologetic of sharing this type of food, whether it's the badak or the different various types of like lops in the book as well. And so I think it's kind of shown my growth, I would say, in terms of like my first initial thought in 2017 of what was Lao food and what was okay to share to what I'm doing now in 2026. I'm very much, maybe I share too much, but I love being able to just explore Lao cuisine in an unapologetic way.
Yeah. You don't offer a lot of substitutions or workarounds for certain things. Sometimes you do, like you'll have your mother's chicken noodle soup and you can buy curry paste or you can make the curry paste. But there are quite a few recipes with ingredients that if I were to go to my local supermarket, I would not find beef bile or banana blossoms or things like that. So was there any pushback from the publisher or your editor to sort of make it more accessible?
Totally. I think when I was writing the initial recipes, I looked through them, and then, as a team, we had to see like what was available. So like for me, my background, I grew up in the Midwest in Wisconsin. And so my POV is that my mom was able to cook all this food in Wisconsin, from maybe growing her own foods, going to the butcher, the farms and whatnot. And so if you really want to make it, you'll find a way to make it. But at the same time, I would say there are some substitutions, like for example, well, maybe not substitutions just for the book, but in general, like the Lao diaspora. Like one of the dishes I like to talk about is the lap tao, which is riverweed type of lap that you usually make it with riverweed, which is really silky. You find it in the Mekong River. But of course, like being in Wisconsin, we don't have the Mekong River, but we do have the Rock River there. And my mom was able to forage for it and she found it. But if you don't have that and you're not a good forager, then a lot of the times a lot of Lao community likes to use spinach. So blanched spinach, and then you blend it up and it gives that similar texture and color. Maybe not as slightly the same taste, but pretty close, and so that's a great substitute. So like I think I applied things like that, or even use of kale in other dishes as well.
Are there any recipes you like had to cut and were sort of sad about?
Yeah, so initially in my head there was like over 200 recipes, and so I was like cutting.
Wow. How many are in the
95, I think.
95 plus like smaller, like how to make curry paste kind of stuff. But yeah, there are a lot. But for me, I use the way of cutting as a tool of like, okay, what would I want as a person getting into Lao food for the first time? What do I want them to know about? And I think maybe in the future, there'll be a second, whatever it comes in the form it comes as. But this is essentially very much of a Lao food primer for anyone that doesn't know how to make Lao food. I think about like the kid that I was as being part of the Lao community. Like my parents didn't necessarily teach me. So it was always visual seeing. So I want the Lao community and anyone that's interested in Lao cuisine to use this as a resource to like blueprint to guide them along the way of making Lao food.
Yeah, it's so interesting to hear you call it a Lao food primer, because it is.
Yeah.
But it's also got a lot of personal story woven through it. And I think one of the things was really striking when you went back to Laos as an adult and realizing how authentic the food that your mom was cooking. Did you always intend the book to be both a Lao food primer and a personal story? Because it operates on two levels.
So actually, it's funny. So when I had the initial send to Zoe of like the introduction, some of the stories, it was actually very different from what you see now. It was more personal story forward and like food surrounding it. I think that was for me. I forget that sometimes like, oh, not many people know. I do it so much, like share Lao food so much around my world that I forget people know about it. So Zoe was reminding me, oh, we have to do more of like Lao food forward and then add your personal stories within whatever makes sense. And I totally understand and agreed with that. With that moving forward, I was able to, essentially you do what I already do on the internet, but bring it into the book form. Because I think a lot of the dishes are very much quote unquote traditional in Lao cuisine. And I had personal stories that are tied within those dishes. At the same time, like the introductions was crafted to make sure that people understand the context of this community, why they're here in America, what it looks like in Laos as well. And also the different traditions that are interwoven within food, because food is such a important aspect within Lao culture.
Right. And why something we might have thought was a Thai dish, I learned is a Lao dish because of all of that interconnectivity.
Yeah, and I think it's like my way of almost also advocating for the community, because so the Lao community has been in the United States for over 50 years now, but it's only recent, right, that a lot of people are understanding, like, oh, like Lao, it's not just part of King of the Hill, it's literally your neighbors. Like there are people that, you know, own these restaurants that you want to try, and it's finally being able to provide that confidence to the community, because a lot of times they came here as refugees, and so they didn't have that necessary confidence of like, oh, I can present my food as it is. But I think my book was reclaiming like, oh no, you can present it as it is and you'll be loved for it, and probably even more.
In the book, you talk about how a lot of recipes are passed down more through oral tradition and in writing. And so what's the process for you of gathering some of those recipes and formalizing them?
You know, I was very lucky in the sense of the work I was doing before this book was all on the internet. And so I was already writing recipes for myself. Like when I was making like gangnomai, bamboo stew that my mom always made growing up, I was watching her, and then I would create it for myself, and then I would make it for my YouTube channel. And then for me, I'm very open to criticism. And so then I get all the Lao aunties and moms. I was like, that's not how you do it. This is how you do it. That's how. And I was like, great. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to try that next time. And so that would make me go back into the kitchen, rework it a little bit. And by the time I got to the book, I was able to feel really confident in the way of creating certain dishes, because I already had a blueprint. And so I just helped refine that even more to make sure that what was in the book was like the final version that I felt confident to make.
That's interesting.
There are still free recipes on my website, but it is not the version that you'll find in the book.
Yeah, I imagine some of those aunties' comments have inspired you to shift the recipe a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that shows like how beautiful also the book is, that it wasn't just necessarily me making it, but it was also the comments on the people's thoughts and feedbacks from the community that, you know, they want to make sure that I was a better cook as I continued on this journey.
And on your trips to Laos, do you collect recipes there as well? And
so I go usually once a year to Laos, and I am always looking for recipes or just something that I've never tasted before within Lao cuisine, right? And so if I like something, I'll usually ask the cook, or like, oh, what's in this? Like, what is this called? For my family, we're from the southern Laos, Savannah Ket, and so it's very regional Lao dishes as well. So for me, I'm not as familiar with northern dishes. So there's like this whole new world that I'm still continuing to explore every time I go to Laos. Another example is like the jiao bong. So actually jiao bong is really good. It's almost like gochujang, but not. So I would highly recommend that to everyone. But that was a dish that I learned in Laos through one of the cooks. They were sharing how to make it, and it was very different to how my mom made it. So I kind of applied both worlds of like, this is how my mom makes it, but this is also how the people in Laos make it. But somehow we still got to the same flavor. And so finding, you know, a home cook, what they were able to access and bring into their kitchen.
You have a chapter that's Lao American fusion recipes, and it sounds like this has kind of been part of your cooking for a long time with the taco truck that you mentioned early on. I'm wondering, I guess, why include that chapter, those recipes that people are really excited to see from you? Or
yeah, I included that chapter because I think I wanted to move the needle a bit within tradition and within my own creativity, because I think sometimes we get stuck in a world of like, this has to be traditional. And for me, I love tradition, I respect it, but I think there's also a place for creativity and expansion. And so my way of doing that was at that last chapter, Lao American Fusion, where it brought my world of, you know, being being this kid who was raised in the Midwest, but also raised in Laos through my mom's cooking in the kitchen at the same time. And it blended those worlds because it was a very natural blend. And then my experiences of living in Hawaii and then California. And I wanted to bring that aspect of the diaspora. Like, we live everywhere, but we apply what we can, but still try to stay focused in the flavors that we love or that we're familiar with. And so that chapter was more of me wanting to continue to expand what Lao food could look like more versus the traditional.
I love that it is at the end of the book.
Mm-hmm.
It's this nice end cap. And then each chapter has an introductory essay. And that one is, I forget, Dear Funky Kid, or it's a letter kind of to your former self. And so it's this wonderful kind of way to end the book. And it makes me want to know about your writing. Like, you pack so much information, both into your head notes and to these personal essays. And you teach so deliberately and carefully throughout this book, and just sort of wondering about the writing process of writing the recipes versus the more prose. And is there one that's easier, one you enjoy more, one you want to spend more time on?
I'm really confident in when I'm writing like personal stories because that comes from, a place that only I know of. And so when I was writing those like head notes of those personal stories, like I felt so good about it. And those would be edited with Zoe. But I think one of the bigger pieces that really made me nervous about was writing the intro chapters. And so I would write those intro chapters, not necessarily about me, but sometimes I would weave in about my family and my life, but it was mostly about the overall look of Lao cuisine through my POV. And that was more pressure because I didn't want to misrepresent at the same time. Luckily, my partner, Roy, he is an incredible creative writer. And so he's actually if you look in the credits, he's the writing assistant. And so he helped me with all the intro chapters. So I would write what I could and think about like, this is how I wanted to frame it. And then he would help clean it up and make sure that we got what we needed and what we wanted the reader to have. I'm so grateful that Roy has been able to kind of apply that within the book as well. And so, and the funny thing is I didn't let Roy look at my writing for the head notes or the recipes at all. And so now I'm like reading those as a bedtime story. It's like, oh, you wrote that? Like, are you sure you wanted to share that? So it's like a thing that we kind of created together at the same time. So it was a really collaborative and beautiful experience.
That's cool. Very special. We read in an interview that you worked with a group in Laos to develop the typography for the recipe titles.
Yeah.
Yeah. And why was that important to include those?
I see this book not just for the Lao diaspora, but also for the Lao people in Laos. My experience with Laos so far is that, a lot of the new generation coming up, they're trying to find their voice. They're trying to see like, where are they on the map? And not many people know about Lao, the country. And so I wanted to connect both worlds. So essentially the Lao diaspora and also Lao people in Laos. And one of my ways was having their expertise, which they are the experts of the Lao script. And so I worked with RDK, the company in Laos. They did such a beautiful job. We went back and forth several times to finding a font that was still traditional, but also kind of resembled like the font that we used for like the title. And so you can see if you look at the little swerves on the bottom, it's very similar to the swerves within the Lao script. And they did all the translations within English to Lao for the recipe names as well.
Oh, that's great.
The book came out April 21st. I'm imagining someone with your social following is going to have a tour, going to get out there and meet people IRL. So talk to us about what you have in mind for the tour, what you're planning.
It's really exciting because this is like the first time I'm actually getting to meet fans and supporters through the 10 years of doing this on the internet. But essentially, we are doing 12 stops across the nation, and I picked places that have a good Lao community that want to celebrate. And I love that the book is released at end of April because April is Lao New Year. Pretty much all month long we celebrate Lao New Year. So we'll be celebrating the book in Lao New Year as well. But we're hitting Los Angeles, San Diego, Dallas, and then East Coast, New York City, Philly, Washington, D.C., ending in the Midwest, Minneapolis and Wisconsin, where I'm from. So it's been, it's a lot of work. I'm sure you won't know. But it's been also a joy to be able to connect with like the organizations and the venues and the moderators. It's been a beautiful way of connecting with everyone.
Are you doing any cooking at the events, or is it mostly speaking and signing? Or
Mostly speaking, I believe I'm doing cooking at the Dallas event, just like light bites. But I think what I'm excited for is Dip Kao. So Lao Food Movement, the godmother of Lao Food Movement, Chef Saeng, is in Washington, D.C. That's going to be one of the bigger stops. And I'm excited to just connect with the team over there and bring the book to them and have that conversation.
Yeah, that's very cool about the Lao Food Movement. And what do you think the book will do for awareness of Lao food?
So I have my goals and all that written on like a spreadsheet since like 2017. So I like to go back to that just to remind me to make sure I'm still routed in that direction. And so I went back, and my goal has always been to make Lao food mainstream. So I think what the book is going to do is literally going to do that within the cookbook world. I think that's the stories that I've already been getting, like a lot of people that have been pre-ordering, is that they finally are able to feel at peace knowing that they have like a resource. Unfortunately, the idea of the older generation passing, things like that have been a common theme or messages that I get from my fans. And so I think it's a gift in one way to be able to provide that peace, knowing that, they'll be able to celebrate who they are no matter where life takes them.
You've hinted, even in this interview, about a second book. Do you have one already in the works, or?
Yeah, no, I'm hinting, I guess manifesting it again. There's something swimming in my head, and I'm just trying to stay in the moment of this book, but also knowing there's something probably going to be coming in the next few years as well. Yeah, so I'm excited. Now that I have kind of the tools and the knowledge, the background of understanding, this is what I would not do moving forward. And so I think it'll be great.
You've talked about releasing a Lao language version of this book as well.
Yeah, so there's a lot of Lao fans that want it in Lao script. And so essentially my way of saying it is, if this book does really well, then we can get it into Lao script. But right now, we have to see how it does in the market and see how people receive it.
You shared a little piece of advice earlier just about with content creators, digging into your niche, not worrying about being relatable. I'm wondering, just for our audience, any other words of advice you want to leave them with?
I think one of the things that I have truly been able to see in this process is that when I started in 2017, I had not much. My camera wasn't great. It was, and we all have iPhones, so something's always possible. But I always encourage people to always share if that's what you want to do. If you have your passion, to always share no matter what you're using. And along the way, every year as a person, you'll be growing. You'll be learning different skills and lessons. And I hope that you also invest in yourselves when it comes to equipment, when it comes to upgrading things. And so for me, I think back on my content career, I probably wouldn't have done my food photography if I had not upgraded or always improved within my own video work. Gaining skills that you can apply in other parts of your career is something that is so valuable and something that needs to be continually reinvested in every year, because you can always grow as a person. If you're not growing, why are you doing it? So that's what I think about.
Awesome.
Before we go, you mentioned your Lao foodie tours. Yeah,
so the Lao foodie tour, this is going to be our 4th year, and we're going at the end of, it's usually always at the end of October, where Laos has its Lao Boat Fire Festival, which is a gorgeous festival to go if you ever want to go to Laos for the first time. So I bring usually 15 to 20 people with me from all around the world. I think one of the most beautiful things is that you get to not just be in Laos, but you get to meet other people around the world that are interested or passionate or have some type of connection to the people of Laos or Lao cuisine. Yeah, people usually sign up the beginning of the year. January is a good spot, but usually it does fill up very fast. So I tell people, join the newsletter, saengskitchen.com, and that's where people get the first tickets if they want to join the tour.
Nice.
Yeah. Congratulations on this book and this whole journey. It's really an inspiration to hear you talk about it. Thank you for spending time with us.
Thank you. No, I want to thank you both and the rest of the team. I listen every week, and I'm learning every week as well. So it really is a great honor to be here and to be able to give back and share. I don't think the book could have been what it is now without you all's podcast. So amazing work, and I hope you continue.
Oh, thank you so much. Really means a lot.
It does. It does. And comments like that make us go, yes, hell yes, we're continuing. Right? Thank you, Saeng.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Before we sign off, I want to tell you about Food Friends, Home Cooking Made Easy. It's a podcast for anyone who really likes shows about cooking and baking. The two hosts, Sonia and Carrie, are former professional chefs and longtime friends, and their show delivers both inspiration and a lot of practical kitchen tips. And what I really love is that they often talk about their favorite cookbooks, new and old, and the recipes that they've cooked from these books. New episodes come out twice a week, and I like to listen when I'm on my way to the market or just anytime I'm looking for some inspiration in the kitchen. Find Food Friends wherever you get your audio, and you can get more information about the show at their Substack, foodfriendspodcast.substack.com. Thank you for listening to Everything Cookbooks. For more about each episode, subscribe to our newsletter at everythingcookbooks.substack.com. Here are some other ways to support the show. Go to everythingcookbooks.com and check out our totes, t-shirts, sweatshirts, other merch, or just buy us a round of coffee. You can also leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your audio. Thank you, as always, to our editor, Abby Circatella. Until next time, keep on writing, reading, and cooking.